Judy was boring.
Hello.
Then Judy discovered ChumbaCasino.com.
It's my little escape.
Now Judy's the life of the party.
Oh, baby, mama's bringing home the bacon.
Whoa, take it easy, Judy. The Chumba life is for everybody. So go to ChumbaCasino.com and play over 100 casino-style games. Join today and play for free for your chance to redeem some serious prizes. ChumbaCasino.com. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
We made this.
Hello and welcome back to We Are Starfleet, a Star Trek Strange New Worlds podcast on the We Made This podcast network. I am your host for this episode. My name is Mike Slamer. You may have heard me on previous episodes. If you have not, welcome. We continue our coverage of the second season of Strange New Worlds by discussing episode 3, Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow. In this episode, La'an is sent back in time with an urgent mission, partnering with Captain Kirk of the Enterprise, once again to restore the timeline. This episode was written by David Reed and directed by Amanda Rowe, and my guest is also my co-host of this particular podcast, Craig McKenzie. Craig, how are you? Welcome to the podcast. I wanted to say welcome back, but that doesn't make any sense because you're usually here anyway.
Well, back, yeah, I've been on all 3 of these seasons so far, but how can I be sure which timeline I'm from and which timeline you're from?
This isn't a mirror universe, alternate universe, but it's definitely something else. I don't really know what to make of the universe that we're in right now, but for me personally, Craig, you and I here in real life, it feels like we're in a darker timeline than we should be. So my question for you is someone going to come back and rescue us from this garbage-ass time that we live in?
One would hope. As we record, we finally got the leaked videos from all those Downing Street parties, and that just sums up how sucky this world really is. December 2020, they were dancing around and whatever, and we weren't allowed to see people. So yeah, we're in the darkest time.
Yeah, what's going on with that? It's, you just like us over here in the US, there's different rules depending on how much money you make. It's like rules for me, not for thee, or something to that effect.
Oh, it's exactly the same. The people that set the rules don't have to follow them, apparently. Leading by example is not a thing.
Yeah, but it's okay, though, because all the celebrities are going to put together a nice video, and they're going to sing, and they're going to say, we're all in this together, Craig.
Someone will sing Imagine, and we'll be better. We'll feel better.
Let's talk Star Trek, though. Episode 3, Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow. Today, we are discussing this episode. So, Craig, let me ask you, what has been your thoughts on the first 3 episodes overall of this season?
Episode 1, you can listen back to what I thought at the time. It was a good start to the season, although not a bombastic start to the season, I suppose. I thought the second episode was really good. I think it towed that line between the resolving the genetic engineering question in the original series, because we know that it won't be resolved because we see Bashir in Deep Space Nine. So I think it found a creative way out of that while still keeping Una on the show, and it brought up some really compelling points that are just there to be thought about after the fact. It's up there with some of Trek's best trial episodes, I would say, actually. I think it's very, very good. So, yeah. And this episode I really enjoyed. So, season 2, off to a good start.
Off to a good start. Definitely agree with you. Been enjoying the series thus far. Episode 2, you mentioned that it's probably, Trek has done a ton of trial episodes where they've always put different characters on the stand to kind of grill them a little bit. And episode 2 did a knockout job of that. And I agree with you. They danced around the whole genetic engineering bit. They danced around the ultimate canon of, bringing in Bashir later on in DS9. And I think that they do a really good job of setting those stages, and it played out really well. This episode, if we're going to give it a rating out of 10, what did you think? You said you liked it, you enjoyed it, so hit me with your overall.
I'm leaning towards 8. I haven't finished my review yet, so I don't know what I'll actually eventually give it once I've really thought about it and analysed it. So this podcast will be part of that. And
awesome.
Yeah, but I'm leaning towards 8. I think it was a really good one.
I agree. I think I'm also about an 8, maybe a 9. But the thing that's holding me back are the somewhat egregious offenses made to the canon of Star Trek. Do you want to talk about that now, or do you want to just talk about it throughout the episode?
It'll probably come up naturally throughout because, yes, there's a couple of points that we can discuss as it goes.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so tomorrow, let's jump right in. This episode, we have a great opening sequence with La'an going to the mat. She's boxing. She's throwing hands. It definitely tells us that this character has been through some stuff. We know her history with the Gorn. We know her history being a survivor, and she's security chief on the Enterprise under the command of Captain Pike. How did you feel about how this episode kind of prefaces La'an's journey and overall characterization?
It does that really obvious anchoring thing that they do with the personal log sometimes, as in, here's what this episode will be about. La'an opens the episode with a log that says, I don't really relate well to people, which then tells you that the episode will be about her relating to people in some way. And I like the montage of her just dealing with petty stuff aboard the Enterprise. A Denobulan arguing with the transporter chief about something that went missing in transport. It's, you lost my luggage, but in a transporter. I really like that just as a gag. And dealing with Pelia's hoarding of priceless artifacts, and they're especially priceless because it's a socialist utopia. But I liked her justification of, I want to keep these in case this socialist utopia turns out to be a fad that will go away at some point. So yeah, good opening.
It really is. And it kind of speeds us through what this episode is going to send us into in terms of setting up the plot. Okay, first, how do you like time travel episodes of Star Trek?
I think it depends on the episode. There are some excellent ones and there are some not so excellent ones. And I think this was a decent one. It's a bit yesterday's Enterprise, at least in terms of the way that the time travel works.
Oh, very much so, yeah.
As in the timeline is overwritten with a new timeline because of something that happened in the past. And in order to put things right, you have to go back in time or send someone back in time to fix it. Obviously, in yesterday's Enterprise, you don't see the aftermath of the going back in time, whereas this is actually all about the aftermath of going back in time. But it is, our timeline's broken and we need to fix it. And it's simple enough as a story. I think it's fine. I think Star Trek gets a bit too bogged down in time travel, though, and I think it's leaned on it a bit too heavily, particularly in more recent times.
Yeah.
Ever since the J.J. Abrams reboot, it's been constant. There's always a time travel element going on somewhere.
I like the setup to this though, where we
Yeah,
have this random assassin just appearing on the Enterprise and giving La'an of all people. Do you think it was right place, right time kind of a situation, and La'an just happened to be the one? Like, what if it was, what if it was Uhura who had been walking the corridor and this had happened?
the dialogue seemed to suggest that she'd been chosen in some way. As in, the agent that turns up at the end says that it was only her that could have done it. So I guess when
Mm.
whoever the agent was at the start realized that he was going to die and his mission was going to fail, he went and got the only person that could, in theory, understand what it was that needed to be done.
He says get to the bridge, which I thought was really interesting even on my first watch. Like, that's a
Yeah,
very very pointed thing to say.
yeah, that suggests that Kirk was supposed to be there as well,
Mhm.
perhaps. It doesn't really go into much detail, and it makes sense that these time travel agents would be vague, but give someone a bit of a clue as to what they're going to do, as to what they're
Yeah.
looking for. Don't worry,
Yeah.
you'll stumble onto it. It'll be fine.
It's a great setup, and it leads us onto the bridge of the Enterprise, where La'an, comes through the turbolift doors, and um, it's quite different. We have a Captain Kirk on the bridge. Tell me, Craig, your first impression seeing Paul Wesley back in action and another alternate universe fake out by Paramount of giving us Captain Kirk.
Yeah, it seems like every time that Kirk shows up, he's going to be from an alternate timeline, and they're just going to keep teasing us. We do see the prime timeline Kirk later in the episode, but that's a cameo. Most of the time is spent with his alternate one. I wonder if
Yeah,
there's a bit of a fear of committing to trying to characterize the Paul Wesley version of Kirk. So it's just every time he shows up, we'll do our own one. We'll do our own spin on him and see how people are reacting to it. It might just be a bit of a litmus test. I don't know.
could be.
Because I think the reaction to him in the end of last season was a bit mixed, so maybe they're
Yeah,
hedging their bets a bit here. I'm not sure, but I thought it was an interesting surprise, and the idea of Kirk recurring in this season, I suppose that's one way to do it. Although I would hate it if it's just every time it's going to be up the alternate Kirks that they can dredge up for various time travel reasons. But yeah, I thought Paul Wesley was good in this as well.
yeah, I agree. I agree. How did you like his characterization of the iconic James T. Kirk in this episode? Did you feel like it was kind of leaning towards a fairly true one-to-one charisma, energy? Some of his lines of dialogue really reminded me of things that Shatner's Kirk would say in those moments.
Yeah, the dialogue it's the same in all modern Star Trek. The dialogue is a bit more contemporary. So
Sure.
you'll see Kirk saying stuff that you wouldn't necessarily hear Shatner's Kirk say back in the 60s or in the films, because that's just how Star Trek dialogue is now. They've made it more accessible, I suppose. But yeah, there were certainly shades of Kirk there, the Kirk that we know, but I also like the differences as well, and they all made sense in the context of the timeline that he lives in. I did have questions around how does the Enterprise exist when there's no Federation technology to make it the way that it is? How does Spock exist in
Mm,
a universe where they don't, Vulcans and humans aren't allies? So
that's true.
how did that happen? Obviously, the episode's never going to explain it, and it's not really that important, but it just doesn't really make sense that he would exist.
Yeah, yeah. And if you look at the uniform that this alternate universe Kirk is wearing, the Starfleet Delta is still the same on the shoulders, even though the little badge that he's wearing is completely different.
Yeah, I guess the costumers didn't have time to just make a new shirt for him for the purposes of a couple of scenes.
Yeah, yeah, I had those same questions. I will say I really appreciate that they didn't do the obvious go to the mirror universe portion, and make La'an work with Mirror Universe Kirk. I think that would have been absolutely terrible. And for the purposes of the story, this alternate timeline, this going back in the past, like this is the junction, right? This is another branching timeline split episode where they go back to a specific point where if they fail, we will have a bad timeline, and if they succeed, we will have the prime timeline. And of course,
Yeah.
obviously, this is Star Trek. They're going to succeed. They're going to win the day, and it all works out.
And it doesn't take a full season like it did in season 2 of Picard.
Didn't take a full season. Yeah. We go back to... Okay, well, first, we have a little bit of a conversation on the Enterprise. La'an, she's fish out of water. Her delta is a little different. This alternate timeline, Captain Kirk says, "Who the hell are you? What are you doing on my ship? I don't understand what's going on. You are wearing the same thing, but you're not wearing the same thing." They go have a conversation in his ready room. How did you feel about this whole sequence setting up our episode?
That was quite good. I like seeing Kirk taking a measured and open-minded approach to what he was faced with, and he gives La'an the benefit of the doubt to some extent. He is cautious of her, because of course he would be, but I guess he senses the desperation in her voice and all that stuff, and just has to figure out what's actually going on. He doesn't resort to immediately throwing her in the brig, for example. It's just, we'll have a conversation, we'll puzzle this out. So that's very Kirk, as in the Kirk we know.
Agreed. There's a little bit of a tussle as they try to, keep the device. Kirk obviously wants to take the device, and he says, "Oh, we're gonna study it, figure it out."
Yeah.
It just so happens that the button gets pressed, and boom, we go to Lake Ontario, which is in Toronto, Canada, which is where the show was filmed.
It's a nice little budget saving. We'll just film outside, down the street. We're fine.
No, I love that. I love that. It's there's something about that particular Star Trekkiness. Like TOS did it. They did it in TNG. They did it in Voyager. This stuff is always fun. Give the actors a chance to get outside. Bring the set outside. Bring the crew outside. It's always fun.
Yeah, and I like the gag about, is this New York? As in,
oh, I loved that.
We always go to New York when these important events always happen in New York. Also, could be a reference to the amount of times that Toronto has doubled for places like New York.
Yeah. I think one of my favorite gags is in the show Suits on USA with Meghan Markle and I can't remember the guy's name. But anyway, they always say like, "Oh, we're in New York, we're in Manhattan." And whenever they're in the skyscrapers in the offices, here's like the backdrop of, World Trade Center or Empire State or the Chrysler Building. But then they go down on the ground and they're supposed to be on like Park Avenue, but it looks nothing like Park Avenue. It looks nothing like they say it's supposed to. Like, yeah, this is New York. Here's the taxi. It's like, yeah, but the street you're on is very clearly not New York City. It's too clean.
Yeah, studio backlot.
Yeah, I love it. They land in Toronto. They're in their uniforms. They have to get clothes. They have to get money. I love the scene, Craig, where La'an is watching Kirk get changed. There's some tension, very clearly setting this up. Craig, you have mentioned previously that, sometimes the romance, the drama can come off a little CW-ish in that it's pretty people getting together for the sake of the show. They're going to pair up, so the writers are just like, yeah, let's make this happen. Did you feel that this was an earned moment for La'an, or did you feel that this was a little, did it clash, is what I'm asking?
I think it ties in with the mystique of Captain Kirk, I suppose. The idea that when women meet him, they're immediately attracted to him, and not even La'an is immune to his obvious charms, I suppose. And if you strip away the sci-fi stuff in the early part of this episode, and when they get to the past anyway, it almost plays out like a rom-com. It's a meet cute, and they're spending time together because they're forced to spend time together. They find out that they like each other, and Kirk is very disarming to La'an as well. She changes a bit around him. She's a bit more sarcastic, a bit more open.
Yeah, I noticed that.
She lets her barriers down a little bit, which I found interesting. And again, it might just be Kirk's obvious charm allowing for that, but I did buy into it. I found them quite engaging. I liked the gag where they both walked out the changing room wearing the same clothes.
Yeah, I love that.
Again, that's a rom-com gag, isn't it? You would see that in a
Totally.
rom-com.
Judy was boring.
Hello.
Then Judy discovered ChumbaCasino.com.
It's my little escape.
Now Judy's the life of the party.
Oh, baby, mama's bringing home the bacon.
Whoa, take it easy, Judy. The Chumba life is for everybody. So go to ChumbaCasino.com and play over 100 casino-style games. Join today and play for free for your chance to redeem some serious prizes. ChumbaCasino.com. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
With the Lucky Land Slots, you can get lucky just about anywhere.
This is your captain speaking. We've got clear runway and the weather's fine, but we're just going to circle up here a while and get lucky. No, nothing like that. It's just these cash prizes add up quick. So I suggest you sit back, keep your tray table upright, and start getting lucky.
Play for free at LuckyLandSlots.com. Are you feeling lucky? No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
It really shows that they are, very similar types of people. They're still different. They're from different timelines, but La'an's really connecting with him.
Yeah.
I love the sequence where they have to go get money. And out of nowhere, Kirk is this professional chess player. I love it.
Yeah, no, he doesn't have a pair of glasses with him to sell for some cash, so he has to do some chess hustling. And that's consistent with his character as well. I know it's not the same one, but in Where No Man Has Gone Before, it's one of the first scenes, might even be the first scene, is him playing chess with Spock. And he says, has anyone ever told you you play a very irritating game of chess, Mr. Spock? And they jab over that. And so that's part of him. I don't think you see him play chess all that often, but whenever you in his quarters, I'm sure there's a chess set in the original series as well. So it's a thing that I guess Kirk has in every timeline. But I love the chess hustling. I thought that was a nice touch. We need to get some money. I can play chess. Boom, here we go.
Yeah, and then they go get hot dogs. There's something really grounding about this episode for these characters, where they both kind of enjoy these very simple worldly things that we get, and it leads to the character development. It shows us that they're real people in spite of being in Starfleet or United Earth Space Force or whatever Kirk said at the beginning of the show. And it gives really good grounding for La'an as well. In the beginning of the episode, we see her going to the mat with her punching bag, getting out all this stress and anxiety. And she gets a moment to breathe. I think that's important.
Yeah. I did expect her to say something about, do you know what's in those? Because she's from an enlightened 23rd century timeline, and hot dogs are not the healthiest of foods, I suppose, but the line wasn't there, so why bother? It wasn't a deal breaker that it wasn't. I was just expecting her to make some kind of reference to it. But yeah, it's a good moment for her to just step back and just relax a little bit. And I like this version of Kirk's perspective of, I'm on a planet Earth that has a sunset. My Earth is covered in a big ash cloud. It's horrible. It's a horrible place to live. I've never even been, but I've seen videos. It's all horrible. And yeah, he's encouraging her to just chill for a minute, because frantically running around trying to find out why they're there isn't going to actually accomplish it, because they don't have anything to go on. So they just have to wait to stumble onto it, really, which they do.
Yeah. The hotel. First, I love that, Kirk had enough game and enough players to actually hustle enough money to, get hot dogs and, get a night at a really swanky hotel overlooking the Lake Ontario Bridge. But let's talk about the hotel scene for a moment. We talked about a little bit of the chemistry between the two characters here. This is where I kind of struggled a little bit. You have La'an, middle of the night, she gets out of bed to go see if Kirk's up, and he's sleeping on the couch, and Kirk is obviously awake, because that's how TV shows work, that's how rom-coms kind of work, and that's how they decided to play this episode. The tension between the two, the chemistry between the two, I see it, I believe it, I can feel it. I liked it. Overall, I liked it, but it also irked me a bit because of, I know, Craig, this is the alternate timeline. So these things didn't happen for our Kirk, right?
Yeah. our Kirk doesn't experience this. This is effectively a different guy who just looks the same.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
They could do whatever they wanted with him, which must have been quite freeing in that way. And it's a bit of a cheat. We want a story with Captain Kirk and La'an teaming up to, I don't know, just fix the timeline, but we can't do it with our Kirk because that might break something. So we'll just give us this alternate guy. But it's fine because I think they do enough to make this Kirk someone that you can invest in. They do plenty of build-up of who he is, and I like the insights into his backstory you sometimes get where he talks about, in my timeline, I've got friends and I've got family and stuff like that. I don't want my timeline to go away. It's fine. You know, I'm not unhappy in my life in this timeline. Why is your one better? And like, well, because it is. Because my Earth isn't covered in a giant ash cloud, for one thing. And also, you're alive there, so it's fine.
Oh, and Sam is alive. When La'an mentions about Kirk's brother, and he stops and he says, "Sam's alive." Oh man, that was a really good scripted line of dialogue that tells you so much about the world that this alternate James Kirk is from versus what we know in our prime timeline. We know that, okay, so if the Earth doesn't have sunsets, doesn't have sunrises because of the gray ash cloud, whatever happened, obviously the nuclear war, the fallout, it gives you so much information in one line. And I thought that was really quite brilliant because that conversation, this Kirk holds on to it throughout the episode and ultimately decides he's going to help La'an in this mission, whatever it is. Like, he's on this, I don't really feel like he has a choice, even if he disagreed, even if he said, no, I'm not going to help you. I kind of don't feel like he has a choice because they're stuck in the past together and they have to go through these motions if he wants to escape. Either that or he lives in this time. I feel like those are the only two options he has.
Yeah, they have to do something. They either let the timeline change or they don't, and they're stuck there until they do something, or maybe do nothing. But yeah, it's strongly implied that Sam isn't alive in his timeline. So that kind of turns his motivation to fix the timeline into, I want to save my brother.
Exactly.
Which is a much more personal one, and it's something for him to latch onto because he doesn't know anything about the world that he's trying to save, but he knows about his brother, so that's better,
right?
Or at least for him.
And he's now met La'an from that timeline, so his perspective, understanding that, okay, there's a whole other universe out there. I've met one person. She says that my brother's alive. I am now really starting to dig her because that chemistry is becoming much more apparent. This all works really well. And then, of course, Craig, we get to the bridge.
The bridge blows up, but both of them remember it. So it's something that happened in both of their timelines, which means it isn't the thing they're there to try and stop. Fortunately, because mission failed, if that was what they were supposed to do. While they were mucking around getting hot dogs, there was a bridge blowing up, and thankfully they weren't there to stop it, but they're there for some other reason. But yeah, it's seen as a big event, and then there's some chat about anti-government sentiment being what caused the explosion and set all that up. There seems to be a lot of implied backstory going on here that we don't get a lot of detail around. It's just a scene is filled with dialogue that's like, yeah, that was probably these people that did it for this reason. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I guess we have to consider that.
Right now, we're supposed to have sanctuary districts that Sisko and Bashir are going to go to, right? We're supposed to have all these things according to the Star Trek timeline, but we don't. So do you feel like the writers are trying to shift the elements of canon to match our current reality? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think there's a definite revisionist attitude going on, and I'm not quite sure how I feel about it. In some ways I don't really care, but in other ways I'm troubled by it slightly. The previous season it mentioned that World War III and the eugenics wars were essentially two sides of the same coin, or they led into each other, which makes sense, I suppose, but prior to that the implication was that they were two different things. The eugenics wars happened in the 90s, World War III happened decades later. They were two separate events. But then if you look at those Voyager episodes where they're back in time to 1996, which is the year the show is set, there was no sign of the eugenics wars, obviously. And they don't even mention them. No one says, isn't Khan supposed to be ruling the world right about now? What's going on here? But so I wonder if that was just I wonder if that's the writers of Voyager just didn't know about that, because that wouldn't surprise me. I think there was a bit of a lack of knowledge required back then of the original series.
Yeah.
I'm sure Rick Berman said that he hadn't seen the original series, or maybe it was Brannon Braga, one of the two.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, so it seems like they just ignored it or forgot about it or didn't know about it. So it's weird in that sense. There is a series of books, though, that chronicle the eugenics wars, and they establish it as being a kind of secret thing that was going on in the background of other real-life events. And Gary Sivan's in it and so on. It's a really good series of books. It manages to weave the story of the eugenics wars and what Khan was up to and how he kind of ruled the world in secret. No one knew, or ruled half the world, or however much of it he ruled.
Step into the world of power, loyalty, and luck.
I'm gonna make him an offer he can't refuse.
With family, cannolis, and spins mean everything.
Now, you wanna get mixed up in the family business.
Introducing The Godfather at ChumbaCasino.com. Test your luck in the shadowy world of The Godfather slot.
Someday, I will call upon you to do a service for me.
Play The Godfather, now at ChumbaCasino.com.
Welcome to the family.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
It was just nobody knew about it until much later, and then obviously the information would come out. So yeah, we've got a massive retcon here where Khan isn't an adult yet; he's a child.
Yeah.
At this point, I don't know if they say the year they go back to, but you have to assume it's relatively contemporary. It's definitely not in the 90s.
Right.
And yes, your Romulan agent says this was supposed to happen in 1992, but it's delayed, and you get that Kurtzman nonsense of, well, the timeline's trying to heal itself, so it's putting everything back where it was. That's nonsense as far as I'm concerned. That's just how you justified the crew of the Enterprise being together in the Abrams movie, despite being a different timeline.
Yeah.
It's like, yes, it's fate. They're supposed to be together, so the universe is pushing them together.
Yeah.
And fair enough if you want to actually play with that as an idea, but they don't play with it as an idea. They just tell you that's what's happening, and it doesn't really work. So yeah, I'm troubled by it in some ways, but also I'm not hugely bothered as long as the story they're telling is good. So I'm mixed on it.
Yeah, so you mentioned the Romulan agent, so cat's out of the bag. The photographer taking pictures of the bridge, the Lake Ontario Bridge, is actually, yeah, you can bring it back to that point if you want to. It's actually like she's there taking pictures, investigating, making sure that whatever this bomb that was planted, it was like a photon bomb. Did they? Yeah, right. Am I remembering correctly?
Future tech, something they're not supposed to have yet.
Right. And they, yeah. Okay, so I remember La'an sees the damage, and she recognizes the damage as being consistent with the use of a photon bomb, which, of course, La'an's a security chief on the flagship of the Federation, so I love that. I love that they make La'an smart, not just not just sexy, not just, a fighter, but also smart, right? That shows competence. And I love that Star Trek is reminding people that these are competent people in competent positions. But this episode, getting back, so this photographer, this journalist, she's the Romulan agent who was sent back to kind of create all this chaos. It's unclear to me what her purpose actually is at this point in time. Did you get a sense of what her mission really is? Because she says she's been stuck here since 1992.
Yeah, it's something vague about making sure the Federation doesn't form. That's her mission. And I hate to bring it up, I wonder if this is a part of the Temporal Cold War that was mentioned in Enterprise. I wonder if that's what we're getting here, because in Discovery, the Guardian of Forever mentions all the temporal wars as well. So I wonder if there's a larger piece on there. I didn't see the twist of her being a Romulan agent coming. I just thought she was a crackpot that was into conspiracy theories that stumbled onto something that was actually real. So that was a bit of a surprise. But yeah, it was slightly vague. I suppose she is going to be vague about her mission, I guess.
Yeah.
She doesn't have to be explicit
Sure.
because, well, she's explaining her plan before she kills people, which is bad villain 101. Although there was one thing about the explosion that I found bizarre.
Tell me.
You see after the explosion just traffic going about its business as normal, as if nothing happened. Surely the whole city would be under lockdown after that happened. They would, they'd shut everything. They'd stop everyone from moving.
Yeah, well, I mean, so here in the U.S., we have a mass shooting every week, but we keep going to work. So I wonder if it's kind of the same thing.
Isn't it comparable to 9/11 almost? As in, it's a massive landmark that's been destroyed.
Yeah.
So you'd think, especially in Canada, they would probably put some kind of curfew in place.
You would
Let's
think.
get everybody safe. Everybody stay in your homes. Everybody go home. There'd be a massive thing. Or you think that people would be panicking in some way, but there was no sign of that.
Yeah.
It's a bit like in Into Darkness after the Vengeance crashes in San Francisco, and a couple of streets away, nobody's bothered.
Yeah.
Nobody seems to care about a massive starship has just landed in the middle of the city.
If it were, honestly, like if it were New York City, like both takeaways could be true. Like if this happened in New York City, people would be going about their day like, all right, that's fine, whatever. And on the flip side, because, of 9/11 having happened, you could be like, okay, the entire city is in complete lockdown. Either thing could be true, and I would believe it. But you're right though. This is Canada. You would think that they'd be like, oh shit, something happened. Let's get everybody safe. I love the gag of Kirk behind the wheel of the Dodge. Hilarious. Also, massive missed opportunity to play a Beastie Boys song.
Yeah, bit of a reference to a piece of the action though, where he has similar issues driving a car.
Yeah. Oh,
So
I didn't even
in every
think of that.
timeline,
You're
Kirk
so
can't
right.
drive, except in the Abrams timeline where he can drive as a child quite easily.
Yeah. It's a great scene. Again, weaving in that comedy aspect that Shrek is always known for, like that little campy, tongue-in-cheek humor. What did you think of them getting pulled over by the police? I love that whole sequence.
I thought the car chase was a bit dull.
Yeah?
Leading up to it. Yeah. It was just, I didn't really feel the urgency of it because they were just kind of haphazardly driving through traffic, and getting pulled over by the police was quite a fun scene. I'm not sure the whole racial profiling thing really lands when you have Kirk there.
Fair.
Because whiter than white. I know that Laan is Asian origins, or certainly Christina Chong does, but Kirk not so much. So the idea of, this is the police profiling again. It's like, well, profiling this white guy.
Yeah, and it's the it's the Romulan agent / crackpot journalist who's filming, and like, I did think it was interesting. It was that scene when the journalist pops up and she's filming and she's got everything and she's making all these comments to the police. It was like, okay, who is this? Who is this person, right? And then they go to the diner and they're having this big conversation, and she shows the picture of the Romulan warbird.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. I was actually expecting to have a few more Easter eggs in there. I'm glad they restrained themselves, but I was expecting that, well, we've seen this, and maybe it was some other time travel stuff that had happened in the past. I don't know, maybe someone caught a picture of the Bounty in the 80s or something like that.
That would have been really
Or the
cool.
Enterprise in the 60s, actually.
That would have been
They could have done that.
cool.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Or the Voyager video from the 90s. They could have had those in.
That would have been okay. See, more missed opportunities, but at the same time, missed opportunity, right? But I do wonder if they did put it in the episode, would you and I be having a different conversation about like, oh, I hated it, such fan service, nostalgia bait, get out of here, right?
Oh, no, I'm glad they restrained themselves. I just expected that was what was going to happen, because I was thinking in my head of, okay, in the Star Trek timeline, what time travel stuff has happened before the date that they're at now? And it is, it's the 80s stuff.
Yeah.
From the voyage home, the 90s visit from Voyager, and well, the Enterprise was in
2000s,
caught on camera in the 60s as well.
Yeah. Yes. So the diner scene, we get the big reveal that there is some kind of power source, this reactor of some sort hidden in Toronto. What's your thoughts on this? I thought it was kind of, I thought it was fine. I didn't connect with it. I thought it was kind of a cop out for the episode.
A secret fusion reactor hidden under the city. Yeah, that was a bit okay. So they've come up with a fusion reactor now, but they haven't told the masses that such a thing exists. And also there's the genetic experiments that go on in the same building, so that's handy.
Convenient.
To line everything up, I guess. But yeah, it's one of those, okay, we'll just have to go with this now.
We do have this great conversation where they figure out, like, okay, we need to find it. We don't have a tricorder. What can we do to kind of get a hold of it? And they're trying to figure out how they're going to detect it. So we have to take a road trip to Vermont, of all places. And there's some dialogue earlier on in this episode where La'an is giving her log, her personal log, talking about it being a security chief and having to deal with Commander Pelia. And when they talk about, when Commander Pelia mentions, being...
Hello, it is Ryan, and we could all use an extra bright spot in our day, couldn't we? Just to make up for things like sitting in traffic, doing the dishes, counting your steps, all the mundane stuff. That is why I'm such a big fan of Chumba Casino. Chumba Casino has all your favorite social casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere with daily bonuses. That should brighten your day a little. Actually, a lot. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com. That's ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.
Judy was boring.
Hello.
Then Judy discovered ChumbaCasino.com.
It's my little escape.
Now Judy's the life of the party.
Oh, baby, mama's bringing home the bacon.
Whoa, take it easy, Judy. The Chumba life is for everybody. So go to ChumbaCasino.com and play over 100 casino-style games. Join today and play for free for your chance to redeem some serious prizes. ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+. Terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
Having some of these relics, and she's had them for a very long time. Does she mention in this episode that she's from Vermont, or was it the first episode that she talked about being from Vermont?
No, it was in this episode. She talked about how she was in the whatever department in Vermont, which was very much a foreshadowy line that stands out because it's going to become important later.
So when they're sitting at the diner and Lon's like, ooh, I think I know somebody in Vermont. First of all, love this. Love everything about it. Love the callback to the line earlier in the episode. And I love the humor that we get with Carol Kane. She's such a fun actor to see on screen. First, let me ask you, Craig, Commander Pelia, new to this season, how have you been enjoying Carol Kane's performance thus far?
I find the character a little too wacky, and it lists me out whenever she's on screen. I'm sure she's doing a very good job at playing whatever she's supposed to be playing, but I just find the character a little bit too wacky. I have liked some of the scenes where she does get a bit deeper. Her scene with Spock in the first episode, where she talks about knowing his mother and stuff like that. I like all of that, but yeah, the obvious comedy stuff. It's almost like a clumsier Jet Reno from Discovery. I think Jet Reno is a really good presence when she turns up, but I feel like they're trying too hard to make her funny, and it kind of lifts me out a little bit. I could have done without this whole Vermont sidebar in the episode. I think they could have just found the watch and kept things moving. It feels like it slows things down a bit too much.
Interesting. Okay. Personally, I like this part. Connecting with a character that's relatively new to the Enterprise. We get some new development with her and working with La'an and alternate Kirk. And I also really enjoyed how this scene inspires this character to take up engineering later on in the future. So there's kind of like a bookending thing happening here fates intertwined maybe a little bit too much for you? Is that what you're saying?
I think it's just more of a pacing thing. I didn't really have an issue with the whole, oh, you should be an engineer one day, and then she is an engineer one day. And setting up the Vermont thing just to pay it off later to then have La'an say, actually, let this slide because I'm paying her back for helping me in the past, even though she didn't really help La'an as such. La'an just barged in and says, oh, this watch, that'll help us, and then leaves. So I feel like it could have been, hang on, this watch glows in the dark that we're seeing in this shop window, and if the stuff in there is exposed to the air, blah, blah, blah. They could have just got there with them walking past a shop window as they were looking for some detection method. And then it would have cut the few minutes from the episode and kept the momentum going, I think.
Okay. So for you, it was a pacing. For me, I liked it. It
Yeah.
was, yes, you're right in that the pace kind of slowed things down a little. But I personally didn't have an issue with that. I thought it was a good moment to get our characters back to like a level set. Because up to that point, we were car chase, cops, Romulan warbird, diner scene. And I think most episodes of Star Trek always have like a aha moment where we kind of learn what we need to do to solve the problem of the day. And this was our aha moment.
I find Pelly a little bit too wacky, which lifts me out a bit. Although there was a discussion about this on the Discord where there seemed to be a difference in UK viewers and American viewers and how they respond to Carol Kane. So maybe it is a cultural thing.
It could be.
Or a background thing.
It could be. I mean, Carol Kane is a well-known American comedian. She's not like a big-name actress or anything, but her role, I think, in Taxi is probably what she's historically most well-known for. And she's been in several other comedies throughout the years, and most recently on Netflix, Unbreakable, Kimmy Schmidt, which everyone really liked her in. And she's always kind of played a zany kind of a person. She's just got that energy to it. I remember reading an interview just recently with Carol Kane where she was talking about the character Commander Pelia, and she wanted to play with like a bit of a weird off-kilter accent specifically to make the character just be off-putting. So I wonder how much of it for yourself and for other folks in the UK who may say, oh, this is not the kind of off-putting that I like, this is not the kind of wackiness that I like, because I do think some UK humor is kind of wacky, kind of zany, but for different reasons. So it could be that cultural humor divide.
Yeah, it could be one of those things that you could explore through, say, the British comedians that turn up in Doctor Who, for example, because that has that international appeal. But I wonder if people in the US respond to these British comedians in Doctor Who differently to how UK viewers would respond to them. I don't know what people thought of Catherine Tate when she was in Doctor Who in the US, for example, but I can imagine there might be a bit of a barrier there. Although in terms of the comedians in Doctor Who, they tend to try and strip out the comedy element of them to some degree and have them actually play a character. They will have amusing moments, and I think Catherine Tate is very much Catherine Tate, which actually put me off the character for a while because I don't find Catherine Tate funny. So it was a weird situation where I liked the character of Donna, but I don't like the fact that Catherine Tate plays her most of the time because of the way that she is. So it will be a personal thing. That's the thing about comedy, is it's completely subjective.
Oh, totally.
But I did find the divide interesting between the American people in the Discord saying, yeah, I love her, that Carol Kane's great, and then the UK people saying, I don't really get it. So I think there's something there.
No, I get it. I remember seeing Catherine Tate in The Office when she was on in the later seasons, and I do remember commentary on her performance being like, "Oh, we do not like this character." First, because I believe of the way that the character was written, but also because that style of British humor, when juxtaposed against the American version of it, is very like, it's very noticeable and it can be jarring. Ultimately, the character kind of warmed up to the rest of the cast and became, kind of welcoming, but it did take more than a couple of episodes to break through that ice, if you will. Yeah, the whole scene, we get back to Canada, we get back, we got the watch, it glows in the dark, and we're just walking the streets of Toronto at this point. And we get a little kissy kiss going here between Kirk and La'an. Here we go. I think Star Trek has always had that underlying beat of soap opera drama. I was just watching an episode of the original series, and Shatner's Kirk is the soft lighting on the eyes and the violet lighting and the makeup and everything, and when he goes up to a woman, he puts his hands on his shoulders and kind of pulls her in a little bit. It's always been a little over the top. I found that this is significantly more contemporary in that you don't have a white man putting his hands on a woman's shoulders and pulling her in, for example. They're going with it. It's very consensual. It's very respectful. But did you like it, is what I'm asking.
I think the payoff made sense because they'd done the build-up of that attraction, that tension between them, and the payoff was there. It was something that I was expecting to happen. It wasn't just this came out of nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like they did earn it. And again, feeding into the rom-com side of it, yeah, they're having a romantic walk through the city at night. How many times have you seen that scene? And I do think the romance side of it has always kind of been there in Star Trek, but I feel like modern Trek has really dialed it up in a very noticeable way.
I'd agree.
And we have talked about the CW comparisons, and it is very much that. Right from the first episode of the show, almost, it's, there's Chapel and Spock, they're making moon eyes at each other, what's going to happen there? And we've had that since then, really. So, and even with Pike, it's, look, there's a pretty girl from his past, when's that going to pay off in some way? And so on. So, yeah, it seems to be much more front and centre, probably more so in this show than other ones, actually, because Discovery didn't really do that.
Yeah.
Discovery's core romantic relationship was a pretty significantly lived-in one in the first season. Although you did have Burnham and Tyler.
Yeah, I much prefer the Burnham and Book romance angle that they have going on now. Okay, so we find this fusion reactor that's hidden in Toronto, of all places. We get a bit of a confrontation in the scene. The big Romulan agent reveal, she's not a photographer, she's not a journalist, she's not a crackpot. She's been behind it all along.
Yeah, she has. And for reasons. Her objective was to blow up the reactor, which is to stop the Federation from forming, and then Khan is plan B. And she talks about killing Khan being the scalpel rather than the bludgeon, I guess, for the reactor explosion. But I suppose the reactor explosion would kill Khan as well.
See, that's what yes, bang on, Craig. That is exactly what I thought by that line as well. I was very confused by it, but on a rewatch, it was like, oh, okay, I guess this kind of makes sense. So my point of view is that this Romulan was looking to destroy the fusion reactor with the knowledge that it would also kill Khan in the process. So instead of blowing the reactor, oh shit, this is awesome, we found Khan, let's just kill him instead. But we got to back up just real slightly here, because we leave a body in a hallway, and I'm not sure how I feel about this.
Yeah, I was confused by that as well. So is Kirk's corpse being left in the past going to come up at some point? Is there going to be ramifications to that? Or will the temporal investigations guys maybe scoop that up?
Presumably so. Presumably so.
It is a glaring thing that's just left there and not even referenced later on. You could have had it in the scene at the end. It's like, don't even worry about it. We got the Kirk body. It's not a problem. They could have had that, but they didn't. And so it leads me to think that maybe that's going to come back at some point.
Okay.
It being Daystrom or something. They'll use it to reanimate Captain Kirk in some way in the 25th century.
Maybe that's the body that they've got in the Starfleet Museum.
No, because that said it was retrieved from Veridian 3 on the on-screen notes.
Well, I tried to make it work.
No, it doesn't work. It's definitely glaring.
Yeah.
And it solves that problem of, well, how are we going to make sure that La'an is the only one that returns? Because this Kirk can't. There can't be two of them living in the prime timeline.
Right.
So that's how they solve that. But it's a bit of a clumsy way of solving it.
It is. Did you like how he went out? How he died?
I think it was pretty understated. He didn't even resist. He just said, well, shoot me if you want. And then she does. And then that's it.
Clearly he was bluffing. He really genuinely did not think she was going to shoot him.
Yeah, how many times have we seen Kirk bluff and win?
Exactly.
This is the one time he bluffs and loses.
Exactly. I think it was what is it? Star Trek 3, where McCoy says, "You've done what you've always done. Give death a fighting chance, or
turn death into a fighting chance to live."
That's thank you. And it gives the viewer, if you have been a lifelong fan of Star Trek, if you follow these characters, if you love the character of Captain Kirk, and you see this happen on screen, it definitely is a little bit of a shock, because you're so used to him cheating death all the time, right? You're so used to seeing him escape at the last second. But here we have that subversion of the expectation, and bye-bye, obviously it's not our Kirk. We know this. Yes, we accept it. But still, I like how you described it as understated, because yes, it happens and you're like, oh, he got shot. He's going to live, right? He's going to beam out at the last second, right? Oh, we're going to put pressure on the gunshot wound. But no, you just see him, the color leaves his face, and okay, bye.
And then Lan's like, oh, well, I'll go in, I guess.
Well, I mean, she doesn't really have a choice. She's getting manhandled by this Romulan agent here. I thought the fight sequence, the choreography, it's very intense. It's very aggressive. These two women are beating the hell out of each other. I always love hallway fight scenes. I thought the choreography was good. And as far as a Star Trek show, one thing about modern Trek is that the stunts are significantly better. We don't have to see the double-handed judo chop all that much anymore. The flying kicks.
Yeah, no one's bouncing off a wall to knock someone over and knock themselves over in the meantime. The fight was quite inelegant as well, which I liked. It wasn't two ninjas fighting. There was just two people scrambling to get hold of a gun.
Yeah,
and I believed that it was just frantic. Because you see so many of these, they're supposed to be frantic, but they're actually just really well choreographed martial arts sequences. So this was people pushing each other, grabbing each other, trying to get the upper hand. There was a desperation to it that I liked.
Yeah, I thought it was a great filmmaking choice too, because you have the handheld camera kind of following the fight, and there are cuts and everything in the editing, but you can feel, yes, as you said, you can feel the desperation. They're both trying to scramble for the gun. This is a life or death situation. Both characters know that this is a fight to the death, and it's implied. There's very little dialogue between them. It's just, I kill you or you kill me. I think that those types of scenes in Star Trek are fairly new in terms of the overall history of the franchise. Really worked for me, and it really set the tone, and it really set the tension of the scene when the door to Khan's room opens.
I wasn't sure what they were going to do with that, and I'm kind of okay with what they did with it. He's a child, and La'an recognizes that he needs to become what he becomes in order for her timeline to exist. And I think some people might have an issue with that because of the knowingly let horrible things happen in order to facilitate a better future, I suppose.
Yeah.
But it's one of those tough decisions you always have to make as a time traveler. As we record, The Flash has just come out in cinemas, and that's about making a change that you think is for a positive reason that then turns into something bad because you've changed the world too much. So what this episode is saying is that Khan needs to happen for the Federation to exist. If he doesn't happen, the Federation doesn't exist.
One thing that popped into my head when I watch this. When La'an and Khan sit next to each other, the first thing that popped in my head was, okay, if you can go back in time and kill baby Hitler, would you? Right? Like that's the rhetorical question that modern society talks about, a little bit tongue in cheek, a little bit jokingly. And that's what La'an is facing here. But not just that, Craig. She's also facing her own legacy.
So the killing Hitler debate always comes around from the perspective of you don't know what will happen if you kill baby Hitler before he can rise to power and do all the stuff that he did and all the stuff that spun out of that, etc., etc. The history that we understand. It would be unimaginably changed. We wouldn't be able to know what that change is. But La'an does know what the result of Khan not being what he is.
Yeah.
She knows that it's Kirk's timeline. So she knows that's how it plays out if she kills him or if someone kills him. So from her point of view, leaving him alive resets everything. So it's probably an easier choice for her because she knows what the implications are of both choices. Whereas with the baby Hitler debate, you don't. But I do think it's a great personal decision for La'an as well, or a personal moment for La'an, because she gets to sit next to this young child ancestor of hers that has been this weight around her neck for her entire life and understand why he needed to play his part in history. And it's almost her letting go of that stigma that she carries around in herself. I still don't know why the Noonien Singhs didn't change their family name so that they didn't wear the shame everywhere they went, but they did, so whatever. That's not going to change, is it?
Hello, Saver. Whether you're saving for that trip to the tropics or saving for an emergency, now is the time to take advantage of Wells Fargo's savings options. Wells Fargo offers savings accounts that can help you save towards your goals. So, what are you saving for? Visit a Wells Fargo branch or wellsfargo.com/save to open a savings account today.
Wells Fargo Bank, N.A., member FDIC.
Yeah, it's the idea of her almost letting go of that, blaming herself in a way for the name or the implications of that name. It feeds into what was said in the second episode by Una's lawyer about your genetic makeup, your ancestry doesn't define who you are. You define who you are. And Lan is now finally understanding that after seeing Khan face to face and understanding, yeah, okay, off you go. Go do whatever it is you're going to do because I know that I'm the result of it, and that's a good thing, me being the result of it.
Yeah. What did she say to him? You're right where you need to be.
You're right where you need to be, or exactly where you need to be, one of the two. So
a fairly innocuous line of dialogue, but when you think about it critically and putting it into context to the overall Star Trek history timeline, but also think about it personally, Craig. What does that line mean to you?
It basically means that she understands, she gets it, she knows what humanity needed to go through in order to create her future, or create her present, and the future of the Star Trek universe from that point. So it's that point of understanding. Before she lived in that timeline, so she knew about it, but this is her coming to just understand it now. And the part that she plays in it as well. But she enables it in a way. And the idea of she almost creates her own timeline.
She does,
in a way.
I thought it was a pretty satisfying resolution to this particular arc of her struggle, of her history of being a Noonien Singh. Like, what does the family name mean to her? What does the family name mean in the overall zeitgeist of Federation history? And it feels pretty satisfying of a conclusion of that part of her story. She blinks back to the prime timeline. Everything is back the way it's supposed to be. She reports to Captain Pike on the bridge, and from Pike's perspective, hey, you just showed up. We were just talking to Commander Pelia about all her stuff. Would you like to weigh in? And she's still dressed in Earth 2020's clothing, out of uniform. The look on her face is very much, I just went through hell and back, but everything is right where it needs to be. I enjoyed this little sequence, this little tie-in of kind of wrapping up the story, seeing Commander Pelia. We have that callback, right, where we talked about it earlier. She's helping. She says, "Oh, you can keep all your stuff. I don't care about it anymore." Did this part of the episode coming into it, the wrap up, the conclusion, how did you feel about it?
Made logical sense. The first thing I'm going to do is go to the bridge and see if it worked. See if I actually did fix everything. Just make sure that what I went through wasn't for nothing. So it's a quick confirmation there. And then the chat with the temporal investigations person, I could have done without that. Really, it's just don't tell anyone. It sets up that she's going to be burdened with this knowledge that she can't talk about, which really isn't fair on her. Do the temporal investigations not have some kind of temporal
counselor, temporal therapist?
Yeah, temporal counselor.
Yeah, missed opportunity to get Counselor Troy to do a cameo, right?
Just we'll send someone once a week so you can talk to them about this.
That's a great point, Craig. All the Starfleet medicine, we got counselors on ships in the 24th century, but this person goes through a serious trauma of going back in time. All the events unfold, and the Department of Temporal Investigation says, "Okay, cool, don't say a word. Got it? Cool. See you later." Good luck, by the way, doing your own job. Yeah.
Yeah. I know we drafted you into this against your will, but live with it.
Live with it. I'm kind of on the flip side. I did like that they had this character come in, Department of Temporal Investigations. It did connect it to DS9 for me. It did connect it to Voyager, and it did connect it to Enterprise in a way. I was personally fine with it, and I thought it was a well done short scene. They didn't spend a lot of time there. It worked for me, and I thought it was a good resolution where as soon as that happens, she immediately pings Lieutenant Kirk.
Yeah, phones him on her iPad.
Yeah.
Luckily, he was off duty at the time and was ready to be able to answer the phone.
I always thought it interesting that the second a hail goes off, immediately they answer. Usually when my phone rings, I'm like, let me wait for the second or third call.
Yeah, I do wonder about the old distance communication thing. Have they just forgotten about the fact that FaceTime can't be done unless you're relatively close? I don't know how far away the Farragut is, but it's a bit strange that they can do the communication, one-to-one communication so easily, because we've seen in prior iterations of the franchise that they're out of hailing range, so we'll just send a text that will get there in a few days or whatever. That's usually a point of tension, isn't it? They're, hail them, they're out of range.
But, that point of tension is always for dramatic effect.
It is,
and it's played exact opposite here, where we get the dramatic effect because La'an is so emotionally compromised from her experience on Earth in 2023, assuming that's when it takes place, that, she immediately wants to call to make sure, like, hey, is this Kirk still alive? Is everything back where it needs to be? She says it to Khan earlier, and now she's kind of tracing those steps to make sure that everything truly is back where it needs to be.
Yeah, and true to his self, Kirk hits on her during the call. So you can buy me a drink next time we're on base together, and I'll tell you about my brother. Kirk not to waste a pretty girl calling him out of the blue.
I know, right?
He's not going to waste that opportunity.
I mean, listen. I guess it's tough out in space. I don't know.
Not for James T.
No,
Kirk,
certainly not. Certainly not. Other elements of this episode. The scene we leave out with her just basically, kind of sobbing, right? It's a down moment for an episode to end on. Thematically, it makes sense. La'an's character is still going to go through certain things. We know from the trailer, for example, that Lieutenant Kirk seems to come over to the Enterprise. So I'm excited now. Now that we've seen this episode, certain things in the trailer make more sense, right?
Yeah. And it's an interesting ending as well. I thought it was really well done. Just where she was very vulnerable and emotionally raw. And she mentioned earlier in the episode that she finds it difficult with people. So she appreciated that Kirk was there because she felt comfortable around him. She felt like she could talk to him. And as it went on, she continued to let down her shield
Yes.
around him until the point where, they give in to their attraction a little bit.
Yeah.
And then she loses him, which is why La'an keeps people out in the first place, because she's worried about losing them because of her history.
Yeah.
So so she allowed herself to be vulnerable, and that's where it got her. So I wonder if that'll turn her into a far more closed off person in subsequent episodes or not.
Yeah, and not being able to talk about it, that's a big deal, I think. Craig, anything in this episode that we missed that you want to talk about?
No, I think we about covered it. Going through my notes, seems like I got everything.
There we go. How do you feel about the humanization of Baby Khan? Did that strike you as awkward in any kind of a way?
In a way, but we're kind of used to the historical stories where it's, this person isn't what you expect them to be. It's the baby Hitler thing. You would go back in time and see baby Hitler. It would just be a baby, right? It wouldn't be, it's an evil baby. Remember Deadpool 2, they did the joke where he went back in time to go kill Hitler and he couldn't do it because it was a baby in a crib. And it's like, oh no, it's horrible. It's still a baby, he can't do it. So I was okay with that. He's just a kid at this point. He hasn't been through, presumably, what it is that makes him so despotic, which suggests that maybe the environment he's in is horrible and is a contributor to him. Although I don't really want to revisit this. I just want it to be over with. I want the franchise to forget about Khan completely.
Yeah.
Just stop going back to that well, because I'm sick of it. But I would really hate it if they went back and said, Khan was a product of an abusive environment, and that's why he was a horrible dictator and stuff. No, I don't want that.
Yeah. And, to that point, Baby Khan essentially sees assassins coming to kill him, and he sees this random woman just, teleport to someplace. So this Baby Khan clearly has knowledge of, terrible things happening outside of his realm of perception, which would ultimately suggest what you just said, that maybe the environment is fairly hostile. So it would stand to reason that he would be fairly defensive. And, how he goes into, nuclear war, I don't know, but that's neither here nor there. Maybe you know what? Never mind. I don't even want to think about it.
I hope we're done with it.
I agree.
I
fear that we're not, because of the sheer fact that La'an's character is La'an Noonien Singh. And I have to tell you that as a viewer, as a Star Trek fan, I agree with you. I don't necessarily need them to keep dipping into the Khan well. And I kind of wish that La'an's last name was not Noonien Singh. I wish it was something else. Like, what if it was not Noonien Singh, but a random, lieutenant of Khan's, what was the guy's name in Wrath of Khan, who went up to Khan in the last moments before the Reliant blew up and was like, no, we have it, we won, just leave, we can leave now, we won, they're defeated. Khan's like, no, I must have my vengeance. Who was that guy?
Joshim, I think his name was.
So La'an could have been a descendant of that character, to kind of give, related, but not. Something to that effect. I don't know.
Or they have her with a different second name, and they reveal at some point that her family changed her name from this.
Yeah. I don't know. It's that kind of decision that the Strange New Worlds writing room, the production team, the showrunners have made that sometimes makes me feel like there's a soft reboot coming. And you've mentioned it previously about the soft reboot. And the more I watch here, the more I'm inclined to believe that you may be correct. I just don't want that.
Well, this episode seems to all but confirm it, because the Romulan agent says this was supposed to happen in 1992, and here we are in whatever year this is, and it still hasn't happened
I'm okay
yet.
with that. Like to me, that's kind of fine, because that's just modern storytelling. It's modern writers putting their own take on the events of, and making it align with our current era. So you and I.
But that kind of reboots it at the same time, doesn't it? Because
you're right.
Yeah, because Khan no longer comes from 1996. He no longer flees the Earth in 1996 because he wasn't even born at the time.
Oh, that's a fair point. Yeah.
So that changes that. I don't know if the change is that fundamental. It obviously isn't, because the timeline we're looking at is similar enough, at least as far as we can see. So I don't know. I don't know what they'll end up doing with it. I do predict that at some point they will finagle a way for La'an to interact with an adult Khan. I think that will eventually happen, whether that be through time travel or holograms or other nonsense. I don't know, alternate universe stuff, whatever. I feel like at some point that will happen.
There's always something that they're dangling, and I don't know that Strange New Worlds necessarily needs to do that kind of dangling.
Definitely not.
You know?
But they're obsessed with Wrath of Khan in all the writers' rooms. They're completely obsessed with it.
Look, I get it.
And I think they should just leave it alone.
It's a great movie. I get it. But there's other movies. We could have, we could do more whale saving. I wouldn't mind seeing more whales in my Trek.
Could we meet a younger General Chang?
Oh, that would be so cool. Everybody loves the undiscovered country, except for people who don't love the undiscovered country.
But we don't need to meet a young General Chang either. We could meet someone that's new and has no baggage.
Well, I brought it up previously, but I think that Strange New Worlds could explore, the Klingon character of Kang. Kang has been, a regular throughout Star Trek lore, so why not? That would be perfectly fine.
Those three, the three Klingons, What are the Duras family up to at this time?
Oh, the Duras family would be great. Anyway. We covered this episode in great detail. I really appreciated you joining me on this episode. Any final word from you on tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow?
No, I just think it was a good episode, and I think people need to wait until they see the episode before necessarily kicking off about certain things, because wasn't it in the first trailer where Kirk said, "I'm from space, I don't know what a revolving door is," and people were like, "But he was born in Iowa." And
yes.
Watch this episode, and no, he wasn't. Not this one.
Totally agree. People, if I can impart one life lesson on TV watching audiences, is actually watch the show in full before coming to these massive jumped conclusions, right?
Yeah.
Like,
I know we've nitpicked the trailer, and I've talked about, I don't know if I like the look of this thing they've got in the trailer here, and it's like but I do always try and remember that the context might change my view of it. And the revolving door thing I wasn't bothered about in the trailer when they showed it in the first place, because maybe he's from Earth, but maybe they don't have revolving doors anymore.
Yeah,
and he says, "I'm from space." Maybe he's lived enough of his life in space that he considers that to be his home. You couldn't easily write that off as a bit of clumsy dialogue that is there to facilitate a joke that doesn't fully make sense. They do that often enough.
Craig, thank you so much for joining me on this episode of We Are Starfleet. We will see you again on this, because this is our podcast. This is what we talk about. We talk a lot about Star Trek. But tell me where else we can find you.
So mainly I can be found on Kneel Before Blog. So kneelbeforeblog.co.uk, Facebook and Twitter, type it in, you'll find it as well. I'm doing reviews of this show, Superman and Lois, but I'm reviewing those, review the odd film. There's an attached podcast, talk about nerdy stuff there. There's a bunch of editing backlog that I'm struggling to get through with, so that I'll eventually release. Things like the chat about the Flash final season, Guardians 3, Spider-Verse, all that stuff. So go over there and see what I'm writing and talking about over there as well. And personally, I can be found under Nemesis4909, which, on a Star Trek podcast, have to qualify, didn't start life as a Star Trek reference. It was originally a Resident Evil reference.
Perfect. Craig, thank you. Folks, My name is Mike Slamer. You are listening to We Are Starfleet on the We Made This network of podcasts. You can follow the show on Twitter and Instagram at StarfleetPod. We regularly talk about Star Trek here on the We Are Starfleet podcast. If you go back and listen to previous episodes, you will hear us talk about Star Trek Prodigy. You will hear us talk a little bit about our thoughts on Star Trek Picard, and of course, deep dives and breakdowns of Star Trek Discovery. Thanks for joining us for another episode, and please subscribe and give us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or whichever platform you're listening on if you're so inclined. Star Trek Strange New Worlds is not all we're discussing, so we'll give you a taste of what you might have missed on the network in a moment. Until next time, hit it.
100 years since Nosferatu first terrified audiences on the big screen.
30 years since Francis Ford Coppola gave us Bram Stoker's Dracula.
And 10 years since Dark Shadows with Johnny Depp.
Vampire Videos is a podcast taking a look at this iconic blood-sucking monster on film and television.
I'm Dan Owen.
And I'm Hugh McStay.
And we're here to guide you through a century of vampirism on film. From Hollywood's golden age with Bela Lugosi as Count Dracula,
to the more lurid hammer horrors of the 60s and 70s starring Peter Cushing and Christopher Lee.
Through to the 80s boom in vampires, which brought these creatures of the night into the modern age.
And everything this century's had to offer us, from foreign and independent films, spoof comedies, and even teenage love stories. Yes, I'm talking about Twilight.
We aim to cover it all, one bite at a time.
So join us on a voyage into the depths of vampire cinema, old and new, with weekly guests offering their own insights and expertise. And why not follow us on Twitter at VampVideos?
A proud part of the We Made This podcast network, subscribe now to Vampire Videos, and thanks for listening.